This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is Vanessa Marshall, Harrison Dula from Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi show number 329. We are your now daily place for spoiler-free Star Wars discussion, analysis, and rhetoric. I guess you can call it CWK Daily, although we're not officially changing the name, but Greg from Rebel Base Card gave me that suggestion when we went on Facebook Live a couple days ago, and I love it. So if we're going to start another iteration of CWK, well, who else is going to be your guest? But, of course, the one and only co-creator of Coffee with Kenobi, Mr. Cory Clubb.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going
glad
good.
To be here on the Daily Show.
Yes, the Daily
some weird
Show.
Times, but some fun times.
That's right, and our main focus here is to give you that daily Star Wars fix, and let's be honest, to focus on some positive, fun things that are welcoming distractions, and really nothing does that quite like a gal far, far away. So, Cory, this is going to be cool. I mean, these shows are going to be a little bit shorter. They'll probably be a half hour each, and I think maybe one a week will be a little bit longer, more sort of the official normal show, but it's just going to be daily Star Wars chats. And you and I have got a couple of unique topics for today. We're going to talk about a big announcement that I shared yesterday, which I'm very excited to finally talk about, albeit a little bit briefly. And then something from the Rise of Skywalker novelization that has a lot of people talking.
Oh.
So,
well, it's interesting because it's unique, I guess, in the sense of we were recording our CWK Pour-Over show one night, and as we always do, we kind of chat beforehand, just how's the things going, things like that. And Dan and I had jumped on. Tom was offline at the moment, but we got to catch up, and we chit chat about things, and all of a sudden Dan kind of goes quiet and goes, "Oh my goodness, I don't believe it." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Well, I've got some news." And I kind of, it's cool to see at this moment because I think for us, you got to see it live in a sense, and I got to experience that with you, and that was fun to
what
see
Cory's referring to
that
is
notification.
Yeah, well, what Cory's referring to is that when it came live on Amazon, then it was safe to talk about it and to share it with everybody. So I happened to see it on Amazon when I was talking to you. And so we got to literally experience that together. And it was safe for everybody then to find out, but I knew to look, right? So
That's right. I mean, I know that feeling of like knowing what you're anticipating something, knowing it's going to happen. You're checking every so often and making sure, is it available yet? Is it there? And, as you come back and forth, which I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know the point. I had no idea you were in the context of writing this book, obviously with some also great authors, Pablo Hidalgo himself and Cole Horton. So, I mean, again, right off the bat, congrats to you, and it's exciting times. I mean, this is, I think I tweeted out not too long after you had mentioned it was available on Amazon for pre-order, and currently is still. That this is no surprise to me, and we talked a little bit about like this is something that I know you've been kind of working towards getting together, and it's always been kind of a goal of yours to do. And here it is. It's sitting here in front of me on Amazon, and the Star Wars book, man. It's crazy. How crazy is this for you?
it's, I mean, it's wonderful. Let me give the sort of the official details, because there's very, very small amount of things I can discuss, but here's what I can tell you. The official title is The Star Wars Book, Expand Your Knowledge of a Galaxy Far, Far Away. And it's written by myself, Pablo Hidalgo, and Cole Horton. So that in and of itself is just incredible. And if you could have seen my face when I found out who I was writing this book with, well, it was euphoric. It really was. So this is everything I'm allowed to say, and I'll share it with everybody. This is the Amazon official description. This is the Star Wars book you're looking for, which is kind of fun considering the tagline of our podcast. If you want to comprehend the epic and intricate Star Wars saga, this is the book for you. It is a unique and insightful examination of the beloved franchise, including Star Wars, The Mandalorian, Star Wars The Clone Wars, and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Written by Star Wars experts, including fan favorite Pablo Hidalgo, this book is packed with stunning film and TV stills, illuminating infographics, and curated essays that reveal the mysteries of the Star Wars galaxy. From legendary heroes like Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa to fascinating species like the Wookiees and the Tusken Raiders, this book explores the central characters, technology, governments, and events that have shaped the epic saga. The book is divided into key subject areas: the galaxy, science and technology, the Force, the Skywalkers, galactic governments and their dissidents, and galactic denizens. Whether you are a devoted Star Wars fan or a casual reader curious to learn more, the Star Wars book is an invaluable roadmap to this galaxy far, far away. That comes out October 20th, 2020. So what do you think when you read this description?
You know, it's funny because a lot of these books that come out are just kind of a recap or the latest about Star Wars thing to catch fans up if a movie's coming out or a series is debuting. But this is different. This feels to me like a different flavor. And I know your history of being, wanting to write about all things Star Wars. So I know that you'll give this your flourish. So I don't think this is going to be just another, Star Wars book, like it's called, the Star Wars book. But I mean, title alone expands your knowledge. So it tells me that, there's going to be more details. There's going to be more underlining tones of themes and things like that. So again, the description was fantastic about all different types of things. Not only are we going to get character descriptions, but like, the technology used, the governments and things like that. So it's unique in that way. I know growing up as a Star Wars fan, I had a similar book. I think it was called the Star Wars: The Expanded Universe. It was like a kind of a small volume, but it was available, just to look up characters and read their backstory. A lot of stuff that's legends now, but this is kind of that same vein. I think it's exciting. I mean, for you getting your hands on some of this stuff and getting, like I said, put your mark on Star Wars itself in this capacity. What's that like for you? That process of writing that down, and was it like overwhelming, or was it just did it feel natural?
Well, honestly, that's a good question, and I got to be careful about how I sort of say things, but basically, it's fascinating because, I mean, of course, I've written for StarWars.com for years, and I've written for IGN for a while.
Sure.
So I sort of had that mindset, and I just sort of had that idea and motivation. Hey, here's some certain things I'm going to talk about, and so just this is how I'm going to approach it. So that's exactly what I did. Took the topics, thought about them, did some research, and then just kind of poured in, and then I would get feedback, and then I would modify things, and it was pretty wonderful. And I can't wait to share more about it when, as time goes on and once everything kind of lines up in place. But for now, I can say it was wonderful. This is definitely a different look at certain things. I mean, it's like the description says, it's just a bunch of curated essays, and I had a blast. I mean, it was a lot of time, a lot of love, a lot of planning, and it's great. And honestly, I want to thank my wife for holding down the fort, because there were times when I was pretty much locked up in the CWK studio doing my thing, and it was pretty exciting. I can't wait to have you read it and talk about it when it comes out.
I feel like I'm Jimmy Fallon trying to ask somebody about Star Wars movie news, and they can't. The Marvel actors and stuff can't tell anything. They can only just kind of go off on their process, and I think that's great too, because it tells me
how'd I do
as a fan, like.
Yeah.
You did great. Yeah, you didn't botch it like Tom Holland usually does. But I think you did great at delivering that. I mean, because to me, it is a process, writing, send down for Star Wars. I mean, how do you tackle it? What's your mindset? Is it, feel like it's like, oh, I have to do, this or that or whatever. And as we get further into the release, I'm sure we'll find out more details. But I mean, like you mentioned, sitting and taking time out to do that. But you running a podcast, you've been teaching full time. Obviously, you've got family and friends to take care of, and obviously through the holiday season, working on that too, and finding the time to do all that stuff. Man, kudos to you for just putting the effort in and the hard work. I mean, it's definitely going to pay off, I think, in the long run. I think this is just maybe the first of many to come releases from you and from these folks. Obviously, Pablo Hidalgo and Cole Orton are in good realms, but for you, I mean, it's cool to see. I think I texted you this yesterday, and I said, how cool is it to be going from a fan to a published author? And obviously, you've been a fan since the original releases. So, did you ever think you'd get to this point in your career as a fan? Was this something you had dreamed about, or just kind of since having kicked off Coffee with Kenobi, was it something that you knew was going to be like a new goal?
Right. I don't know. That's a great question. That's basically similar to what people say when did you think Coffee with Kenobi would just sort of take off the way that it has. And I guess I feel the same way about that as I do this. I knew what I believed in. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I had a lot of things I wanted to say. I knew I trusted in the process and that wherever God was going to take me, he was going to take me. So I just wanted to be open to opportunities. I wanted to prepare myself. I mean, as I always say, writing about Star Wars teaches you about Star Wars. I mean, the research and the thought process that goes into creating and crafting things that people will read or that you will read helps kind of get your mind in a certain sort of a way. So that was key. That was paramount in my brain. And then I always want. I mean, ever since I was a little boy and I picked up Rusty Miller's Star Wars book, his question and answer book. I always wanted to write a Star Wars book, and now I can actually say I'm a Lucasfilm published Star Wars author, and it like saying it.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, and when I saw it, like my arms and hands started to tingle, and I just felt so excited. I could barely contain myself. It was pretty wonderful. And then the response on social media has been just great, and family members reaching out to me, and
it's been crazy.
It's been wonderful. So thank you so much to everyone who did bother to reach out and wish me well and kind words, and it's been great. And I can't thank you again enough, Corey, my friend, for being like a brother and a friend, and always being so tireless and supporting me. It really means the world to me.
Well, I mentioned too on Twitter when I tweeted out, I said, I can't think of anybody more perfect for this role. I mean, obviously this is meant to be for you and your career. And obviously, you're the guy for it. So, I mean, again, this is just exciting news. It's exciting to celebrate. I mean, I almost don't have words for it in the fact that like, this just takes things into a whole new direction for everything. So again, awesome news. Very excited for you and this release. So October 20th is the day. I know that people are already pre-ordering actually. So if you guys have a chance to get online, it's already on Amazon. They can pre-order and get it today. Yeah, it's definitely going to be something I'm going to be picking up. And I think that I look forward to getting your signature on. So very cool. Very cool.
It's pretty surreal how many people have said, "Can I get an autographed copy?" And they actually mean it.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
You won't even be able to read my handwriting. It's terrible. But I'm gonna have. I don't know.
You start working on that. Practice on that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Seriously, do it.
My 6-year-old has so much better handwriting than I do. I can honestly say.
Now, can I ask? Will you sign it Dan Zer or you sign it Dan Z?
Oh gosh, I don't know. That's a good question.
We'll
what does everybody think? Yeah, should I
don't know what to weigh in on that. Yeah. Okay, there you go.
And everybody writes, "May the force be with you." Do I want? And that's like a lot of.
Your own.
I don't know. Is there like some sort of clever little thing? This is the autograph you're looking for. Something like that. It's not. It should be Harrison Ford or George Lucas. But no, Ian. Thanks again, everybody. It's great. So much more to come. Be sure to pre-order the book. Comes out October 20th, and you go to Amazon.com and check that out now. Let's go ahead and take a little break, a very quick break. And then when we come back, Corey and I are going to break down a key moment in the Rise of Skywalker novelization. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Okay, we are back. Told you it'd be a pretty quick break. All right, so at C2E2, they started selling the Rise of Skywalker novelization by Ray Carson. And as some of you may have seen, I interviewed Ray Carson for StarWars.com. So I was very fortunate I got to ask her things that have been on my mind and she was kind enough, and everyone was gracious enough to. So yeah, go ahead and you can talk about this. You can talk about that. So we did. It's on StarWars.com now, so check it out. I can legitimately say she's as cool of a person as she is a gifted writer. And the book is great. I've got some other stuff that I'm working on with it, which will be fun to share later. But the key thing is in the second chapter. All right, and this, Corey, is about Palpatine. I'm going to read this to you.
Yes.
This was much dissected before the book was actually out, and it came out yesterday. So here, yesterday being Tuesday, March 17th. All right, here's what it says. All the vials were empty of liquid save one, which was nearly depleted. Kylo peered closer. He'd seen this apparatus before, too, when he'd studied the Clone Wars as a boy. The liquid flowing into the living nightmare before him was fighting a losing battle to sustain the Emperor's putrid flesh. What could you give me, Kylo asked. Emperor Palpatine lived after a fashion, and Kylo could feel in his very bones that this clone body sheltered the Emperor's actual spirit. It was an imperfect vessel, though, unable to contain his immense power. It couldn't last much longer. So, what does that tell you about who Palpatine is in The Rise of Skywalker?
That was one of the biggest things, I think, coming out of that film, the mysteries. I know we saw the trailer release. His laugh was, at Celebration was very telling of what, these theories spinning out of control, saying, what about this? What about that? And a lot of folks had said, oh, it's got to be a clone, or it's got to be, some other weird way of doing it. And as much as, I'm just speaking from my fan perspective here, like much we've seen from the Clone Wars, are those clones perfect? I don't know. I think they all are different in their own way. It's unique. So did they ever get it right? And if that's the case, did the Emperor ever get it right with his who knows what's? He's like a bad movie wizard that's concocting in the back dark dungeon of him, himself. And to me, that I guess that fact now that we see it in the book, it feels right.
So
the way
is he
it's
a clone or is
described,
he the Emperor?
to me, see,
you want me to
I'm
tell you
going to
what I
say
think?
he's a clone. I'm going to say he's a clone. That's what I'm going to go with, because
Okay.
that's the way it's described in the book. The liquid nightmare.
There's a couple of key things in that. He'd seen this apparatus before when he'd studied the Clone Wars as a boy. The liquid flowing into the living nightmare before him was fighting a losing battle to sustain the Emperor's putrid flesh. So that's the first part of it. And the second part of it, Kylo could feel in his very bones that this clone body sheltered the Emperor's actual spirit. It was an imperfect vessel, though, unable to contain his immense power. It couldn't last much longer. To me, it's pretty clear. Now, I had to read it a number of times and really think about it because there's lots of speculation and confusion out there. But to me, somehow, Palpatine has figured out how to harness his spirit. When he died, he did die at the end of Return of the Jedi. That thing that Vader did to sacrifice himself to save his son Luke still happened. The Emperor's body is dead, gone. Bye-bye. But his spirit somehow was able to manifest itself into a clone body. And for all we know, that has jumped repeatedly. I don't know that, so don't quote me on that.
Right.
But it says it was an imperfect vessel unable to contain his immense power. So the spirit of Palpatine is so powerful that a clone body can't sustain it, which is why he's constantly hooked up to all those stuff and those tubes.
Yep.
And they're pouring that liquid into it. It says the liquid was nearly depleted. So it's a clone body that is inside, but inside that clone body is Palpatine. So I guess it's sort of both. Yes, it is Palpatine, but it's also a clone. To me, where the jump in logic is when people say, well, then I guess Rey's dad was a clone. Why? There's zero evidence to sustain that. I mean, for all we know, it's just a 30-year gap. For all we know, Palpatine had a son, sometime during the era of the Empire, during the era of Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. It would work out time-wise. So it doesn't mean that Rey is the daughter of a clone. I don't think that is valid at all.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is I thought back to that, and I saw that theory pop up, and I thought about Jango Fett and him wanting to have a clone of his own, and he treats that as his son, that's been unenhanced or unmodified. So to me though, it's like, is it the flesh and blood of someone? Is that is that them, or they're I mean, I don't know. I'm asking out loud, I guess, but I don't know how to land on it necessarily. I don't try to give too much into that, because I'm like, I don't need to. That doesn't break the logic for me of race parentage. So
Right.
you know what I mean? Like it doesn't a key factor to me. It doesn't. I mean, I would hope that we get more growth to that and seeing that come to life in some other aspect. But for now, it doesn't break it for me.
Yeah, and all we can go by is what we have. All we can go by is what
absolutely.
we actually have. And the rule of canon is this: novels are canon unless they directly contradict something that happens in the movies.
Sure.
This doesn't directly contradict anything that happens in the movies, so this is all we have.
Yeah.
I mean, feel free to obviously everyone should read the novel anyway, because it's really great and Ray Carson is awesome. But that's where you can make up your mind.
Well, the other thing I thought of too, just from what we know facts wise, that between the Jedi and the Sith, like the Jedi have mastered the Force Ghost, right? So their spirit lives, right? So they've embodied into a spirit form, where the Sith haven't. And so you can see that, like that we talked about the detail around him trying to, his body was kind of falling apart or not being able to held together. His spirit lives, but he doesn't have it right. There's something that's missing. There's a missing part, and he's trying to shove it into a clone body, and it doesn't fit. I mean, it doesn't work out. There's something missing, and I think that's the key difference between, that or the mysticism behind the Force and a Jedi and a Sith. So, to me, it tells so much that the Sith are so much wanting to live forever in a physical body, and they obviously can't achieve that. And we've seen that in this little piece of the book. But it's just more telling for me that the Sith are grasping at straws in a sense, that if they can, and
Yeah.
through the movie we see a lot of that power come back, and him. We have a lot of like new things coming out. He's pulling the Force and pulling the essence out of Rey and Kylo Ren and Ben Solo, and so we see kind of some changes there. But on the flip side, we also see Ben Solo give his life essence to Rey so she can survive. So there's a little bit of crossover, between the two, I think, which I think is appropriate. But it also just carries on that mystery. I think that's what's exciting about it too. I think the unknown has always been exciting. I think it allows us to have good conversations, allows us to have exciting, debates about what might not happen. And I think that's the essence of Star Wars in general. Like, how it kind of came to be. It was just more of like this mysterious thing that came out of nowhere, and we'll have fun with it and kind of take it on as we please. And so I guess that's my thoughts on that. So
No, I think that's great. And yeah, there's a little bit of ambiguity there, which is fun, but you've also got some evidence to make a rational sort of estimation of what's going on, which is great. Now, did you are you going to buy The Rise of Skywalker digitally?
I've got it here, sitting here, and I haven't jumped into it yet, but I do, because I think as a viewer of the film, you take it into one aspect of viewership, like through the eyes, through the ears, maybe through your mouth if you're eating popcorn. But I think
with hot tamales.
No, thanks. But I think that's one way to view it, and that's how it's originally meant to view. But now, as you can jump back into the book itself, you see it on a different scale. You get down, like you said, get down to those very fine details, and you can see certain things you did not see in the film, and you might not see in the film, because it's almost, different ways of telling a story. I can tell you a story, Dan, with a video performance, or I can tell you a story by around a campfire, and you can imagine in your mind what it might be like. Your description, your mind might be different than what the next person next to you might think differently. So,
Right.
I think reading the book really delves into a personal fandom and allows the reader to establish things in their own mind that they are reading on the page, and like you said, becomes canon. I think that's a good thing. I think that enhances the storyline, enhances what we've seen on the screen or what we know going into the book itself, and flipwise too. I think if you read a book and you go to see the film, it's not going to be exactly what you see, but a different interpretation. You see that in like Lord of the Rings and things like that. So I think the book itself only enhances the fandom readers and viewers might have. So I encourage people to go pick it up and check it out, because I know also we talk about writing books and things like that, and also being a published author myself. Like it's not easy. It's not easy to write a book in any essence, no matter if it's fiction or nonfiction. And to put the words on page, you think so much harder about how the person's reading it, how they're taking the context of basically, filling out that gap of imagery. So you really have to think really hard about this. I know it sounds like Ray Carlson was done a fantastic job of that, and I think that in any case, we mentioned writing for Lucasfilm and Star Wars it's a very lengthy and very studious process. I mean, you have a lot riding on yourself, and I think it's exciting too, as even fans in general, like you're Star Wars fans writing a Star Wars book. So there's excitement, and you wanted people to read it and enjoy it. So I think that obviously she's probably done a good job of that. And so, I mean, I'm excited to read it and check it out for myself.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are the podcast you're looking for. This is...
That's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to have a cup of coffee with me, and for helping to spread the word about our Star Wars family we've got here at Coffee with Kenobi. To join us in the CWK Cafe, which is our Facebook group, and share your Star Wars thoughts, comments, reviews, and opinions in a family-friendly, spoiler-free place that is also drama-free, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/community and be part of the conversation. It is a lot of fun, and you'll make some new friends, as well as catch up with longtime friends there as well. In addition to being a part of the community on Facebook, please don't forget to visit our website at www.coffeewithkenobi.com for Star Wars news, announcements, reviews, videos, and so much more. If you have a question for me or just want to share your thoughts on the air, feel free to email me at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com, and I'll share them on the show. You can also connect with me on Twitter at Mr. Zer, MRZEHR. There are also a lot more ways to connect with me and Coffee with Kenobi on social media. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, and check us out on Pinterest. You can find me twice a month on the podcast Looking at Lucasfilm, part of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, and you can find my writing on CWK's website, as well as StarWars.com and on IGN. And if you are considering starting a podcast or a blog, let me know how I can help you get started and help you make your creative vision a reality. Be sure to check out danzymedia.com, and we can get the process started. I am also available to come to your school, conference, business, or organization to talk about how to tap into your strengths and help you bring out your very best. I want to inspire you to be inspired. Don't be afraid to take that first step into a larger world. If you like the show, please tweet out that you're listening, share it on Facebook, or invite your friends and family to tune in and share a cup of coffee with us. And if the force is especially with you, please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Google Podcasts. Every review makes a huge difference and helps spread the word. A nice reading, a great thing to do. Great thing to do to fill up some time and make you think. So if you have any comments or questions about the Rise of Skywalker, or anything to do with the Star Wars book that I'm allowed to say, which is very little, feel free to reach out to Nancy at coffeewithkenobi.com, and we're definitely weigh in on the CWK Cafe. Cory, thanks for joining me for the first iteration of CWK Daily.
I love it. It was fantastic.
It's good. Hey, you're a natural.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I do what I can.
Let everybody know if they want to continue the conversation with you, where they can reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Get online, Twitter at Cory Clubb, or email me, CoryC@CoffeeWithKenobi. Let me know what you think about all these fine publishing folks and all your reading. And take the time to read it too. I mean, I know currently we're all in the midst of kind of hunkering down, and pick up a book. Take an escape. I think that's what books are supposed to be. So try that out and let me know what you think.
Very good. And of course, we will be back tomorrow for more Coffee with Kenobi and CWK Daily. Thanks again so much, everybody, for joining us. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along.